Hey, what's up everyone? It's Miguel from Mig's Garage, and today we're going to be installing a new radio in the S2000. I'm going to be installing a Pioneer DMH-W4660NEX. I'm also going to be putting a dash control module as well as a rear view camera. So let's get to it. All right, so we're going to first start off by removing the factory navigation system. As I'm going to start with this one first. The best thing to do is to use a tool, a little plastic tool, to remove this bezel around the radio or the navigation screen. This radio bezel looks like it's probably put in with some pressure clips. So I'm going to use the technique that I used to refer to as pull and pray. And if those of you who don't know what pull and pray is, it's pretty much pull and pray it doesn't break. So let's see. That popped right out. Okay. So I got that side out, and usually when you get one corner out, you try to work it in, but being careful that you don't crease the edges of the panel, because that could be easily creased, and you don't want to do that because then it'll show when your radio is done. So I'm going to carefully try to pull on the other side here, get this side out, and let's see if I can try from underneath. There we go, got that side, and boom. There we go, it's out. So that's all it was. Like I said, it's pull and pray. They have these clips on there. This car I was fortunate that it was that setup. A lot of cars, sometimes they'll have screws from behind and you'll have to release something to pull it out. But this one was pretty straightforward. So that's out. Let's get my drill and actually take the 4 screws out and we'll get the radio out. All right, 4 screws. Four screws to take this out. You need a screwdriver if you want, but otherwise the drill's fine. And then this should come right out. Let's see. That's it. All right. Oh, wow. You can see this is not a very deep radio, which I already knew, but you'll see my new radio, the comparison, and hopefully the new Pioneer will fit in. The new Pioneer I did purchase was one of the most shallowest radios that they make. So we'll compare that in a second. And there it is. So radio's out, and we will be utilizing the brackets on the side to install on the new radio. So we'll put that on the bench and repurpose or reuse those. All right, so this is the factory head unit below the navigation, and this is where the most radios for the US version of S2000s are placed, and there's one here as well, but that will be coming out as well. Not sure what I'm going to put in there. I'm going to leave it out. So let's take it out. I've actually never taken one of these out, but I had a funny suspicion this panel needs to be popped out. Again, utilizing my pull and pray technique to see if it comes out. That came out relatively easy. This piece up here seems like it has to come out as well, but I'm going to be a little bit more careful because I don't want to break any or crease any of the plastic. I want to make sure the plastic edges of this radio is still crisp and clean. So I just have to be very careful when I'm pulling this out. This tool is a great tool to utilize for that. This is just a pick, but it's also very dangerous because it could gouge a dash very, very easily if you slip. So I'm going to switch to my plastic tool, which is a little bit less abrasive, and it gives you a little bit of leverage so you can pull on panels. Let's see if I can get this out. Which it's coming. Just working it a little bit at a time so I don't break anything. I don't want to break any clips. So let's see if I can get this corner out here. This corner is my last one that's hanging me up, and we're out. Okay. So that's it. It was pretty much like I said. Pull and pray technique one more time. It had, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 clips, 8 clips. So it's out, and there's the radio. So it looks like it's as simple as just like the other navigation unit. I just have to use my drill and unscrew the bolts here. Unscrew the screws. There's 2 there. There's 2 on the other side as well. Okay, got those out, and this should slide right out, and there it is. Right, comes right out, just like I thought. Now that we've gotten everything out, our next step is to start to pre-wire the harness, so we can put the radio actually right here where the navigation is. This is where it's going to go. So we're going to wire the harness and put the brackets on and install it. All right, so I'll show you all what I do when it comes to wiring the harness and putting it in. There is the Pioneer radio that I'm going to be installing right next to the factory Navi. So let's take the radio out and let's mount it and start to wire the harness. There it is. This is the radio. Now, as you can see, it is super shallow. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a radio that was this shallow that Pioneer's ever made. So hats off to you, Pioneer, for really giving some of us with depth issues a radio that potentially can fit. So, and as you can see, if I could go a little closer, depth-wise, I'm pretty close. Put that in focus a little better here. I'm pretty close depth-wise. It's a little bit deeper when you think of the front, but let's hope that I have a little bit of leeway in the car itself. So let's go ahead and swap over the brackets that are on this one to this one, and let's see how it's going to fit in the car. Okay, so the brackets are on, and I'm going to actually test fit it just to make sure that it fits. Okay, so test fit number 1 unfortunately shows that the radio is just slightly too deep, which one would think, how could this thing be too deep? But the reality is it just doesn't fit this part right here, which is a fan, is hitting the back here. So the only way to really to resolve that, it doesn't go all the way, sit back on the brackets don't sit back against the mounting panel. So the only really way to resolve that is to cut, unfortunately. I'm gonna have to get my tool and cut this back panel off. Real important thing as you're doing that to make sure that there are no wires. So you want to put your hand back there and make sure. I already did that, so at this point is known. So I'm going to make sure I just cut this back panel off, leave the sides the way they are, and it shouldn't have any effect on the overall rigidity of the panel. Got that all cut out. Let's see if it fits better now. What I'm trying to do is make sure I get in the brackets, and success. Next is let's wire the harness. This is the harness that's supplied by Pioneer with the speaker outputs, ground, power switch, that kind of stuff. You always want to pick up a harness that plugs right into your factory harness. I also have a adapter that actually utilizes the factory dash audio controls. It does like volume, track, source, that kind of stuff, and I'll show you what that how that functions with the radio. But when you do buy one of these, you got to make sure that your radio has a remote input on the back of it. And my Pioneer radio that I bought definitely has it, because that was one of the reasons why I bought it, because it had that input. A lot of the Double Dins have that function. And then last but not least, I bought a rear view camera. As I wire the harness, I will be leaving some extra wires for accessories. So most aftermarket harnesses have your accessory wire, which all it really means is that when you turn the key on, it gives this wire 12 volts, and when you shut the key off, it shuts off. And that's a great wire to have if you want to add like interior lights, you want to add some accessories inside, even gauges. So this wire is the accessory wire, and it's a great one to add a pigtail inside the car. So when I get to that point, I'll have it. And this is probably a 10 amp fuse. And a lot of these small accessories don't draw a lot of current. So don't be afraid just to tap off here. Otherwise, you're going to have to tap off of an ignition wire. Then you would want to fuse it, because a lot of those wires tend to draw way more current, and if they short out, they won't blow. Regardless, this is a great wire to do that. There's also a constant on here. I won't need that for most cases. I don't have a lot of accessories. I need a constant wire. If it does need a constant, I probably will tap off the battery with some sort of a fuse. And then it's got a ground. So you can get a ground anywhere with this metal, but I will be tapping off of these two wires and leaving a pigtail. So if I run any of the accessories, I'll do that. So let's go ahead and wire at least this and then add my pigtail. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to make some of the wires the same length. They usually are pretty much the same length, with the exception of some of these extra wires, like the reverse wire, which I will be hooking up, which I'll put a pigtail. This speed signal input, which gives your radio the ability to put in how fast you're going. But the GPS antenna also does that. So you'd have to find that wire, which is not the easiest. You could search around the forums and you might find that wire. But what I like to do is, I probably won't hook that up. I don't see a big need. But what I want to do here is I'm going to make these wires all about the same length, 'cause that's what I like to do. And then strip them out, so that way I can hook up. I will be actually doing solder. I'll be soldering these wires. In most cases, I don't solder. I use crimp caps, but because the radio is in a different spot and I'm gonna have to fish it up a little bit, I don't want the crimp caps to get caught up in any brackets. So, all right, so we got our speaker wires. This car does not have rear speakers. So the front ones are these two, which is the white and then the gray. I believe white is front left and gray is front right. And then these are the rears. There's no rear speaker, so I'll be just taping these off. And you don't want to leave them laying around, because if the ends touch metal, it will short out. And in some cases, the radio will shut off, or you'll get some odd noises from the radio, like a popping or a scratching noise. So you always want to tape them off if you're not utilizing them. So I'm going to use these. This orange and white I will be hooking up. That's actually the dimmer. I actually like that wire. This I'm not going to hook up. The reverse wire I will. And those are the wires I'm going to be using. So all you really have to do, a little install tip, is once you have your harnesses, if you want to solder them, which is probably one of the best ways of doing it, you just take two wires and you cross them. Let's see if I get this in focus here. You cross the wires, right, just like so, and you just one over the other. Okay, and then you'll end up with something like this, which you can solder, and it's perfect. I know some people will say that you can just tape that, and you can tape it. The problem is if you don't get a good enough connection, or even just temperature changes, it could move a little bit, and then you'll lose connection. So I recommend either using a crimp cap, a butt connector, or a simple, like I said, twist over, like so. and then solder it and tape it. And keep in mind, when you are wiring speakers, they are polarized, so you have your positive and your negative. You don't want to swap them, and it's clearly depicted by the wire with the black stripe is the negative, and the solid wire is the positive when it comes to the speaker. So make sure you don't put the wrong wire. The speaker will still work, but depending on where they're located, they could be out of phase, and it'll cause you to really lose a lot of your lower end frequencies. So in other words, you won't have a lot of bass. All right, that's pretty much it. I have a couple other wires I'm going to put pigtails on. I'm going to tape my speaker ones that I'm not going to use, the rear ones. I don't have them. I'm sure someone could say, why don't you just hook them up? You can. It's personal preference. I'm not going to waste my time because I'm not going to utilize them. So I'll just take them, loop them together, make sure that they're not crossing over each other, because that will cause an issue as well. If there's signal coming through them, you can just do a little bit of taping. And that's it, little pigtail. You don't want to rip them out. Some people tend to do that, but in the future, if you wanted to add it, or you needed the wire, and if you rip them out, now you're screwed. So I recommend never cutting them too short, which I see a lot, or ripping them out. So I leave a little pigtail. Worst case, in the future, if I need them, it's there. And I'm gonna tape these as well. I try to make sure that they're not touching. Give them a little bit of a turn, and it's pretty good. I'll put a little piece of tape on there, like I said. Tape them all up, little pigtail. Boom. All right, let's solder that. And then I'll show you a little trick, a little install trick when it comes to wires. And if you wanted to put an accessory, how to twist the wires. All right, so that's that. All right, everyone, I'm gonna do a quick little install tip. So if you ever needed to run wires in a car, and you have, I don't know, a length like a foot, 2 feet, 10 feet, no matter what you have, you don't want to have them laying around, and sometimes they'll just be loose. So an easy way to actually keep your wires nice and neat and tight is to just take them, get a drill. Like if you have just a regular drill, it doesn't matter what kind. You take the two ends that you have, you put them into the chuck here. You just tighten them, right? It doesn't have to be crazy. Then you pull them tight, right? And just turn them. And as I zoom in, you'll see it actually does a little bit of twisting for you. Right? You don't have to go crazy tight, but when it gets to a certain point that it's tight enough, take your wire out, and look, you got yourself a nice little neat twisted wire. And you can tape it, you can put split loom if you want, but otherwise you got yourself a nice twisted wire, so if you're running them through your car, they won't be loose and going everywhere. So a little bit of an install tip for you. All right, install tip. If you ever need to run wires inside of your car, let's say from inside of the back of a head unit down to the driver's side or the passenger side, there's a couple ways you can do it. One, you can use a metal fish, which you can purchase at any hardware store. My only complaint about the metal fishes is they tend to, when you're putting them through, sometimes they'll come out a different panel, or sometimes they'll pop out and they'll nick a dash panel. And you don't want to have scratches on your dash. In some cases, I've actually seen it crack a windshield. So in my opinion, your best bet is to purchase a tie wrap, HVAC tie wrap, which is very similar to this. You can pick them up at any hardware store. They're typically about 36 inches long, so they give you a ton of room. And what you do, and the good thing about these is that it's plastic, so if it does touch a dash or a windshield or any part of the car, it's not gonna scratch it. So that's a great install tip. And what you do is when you wanna run it, you just like a metal one, you put it in, and you pretty much can see that wherever you're looking to get your fish, it'll be there. And that'll save you a lot of headache of damaging cars, as well as make your life a lot easier. So install tip. All right, now that we've gotten the radio all wired up, next we're going to run the wires for the rear view camera. So ran some wires down, tied them up, ran them down in the kick panel here. It's a little bit of a mess, but we'll clean that up in a moment. Actually pulled this aside, ran the wire down here, as you can see, and then ran it through the back here. And on the other side here, you will see that the wire goes through back there. I tied it up nice and neat, ran it all the way down the side, up and around, and it's actually, all my wires are down here at this point, and I'll be wiring the rear view camera in a second. And let me show you what it looks like down underneath here. Here it is, sitting there, nice and tucked away. So it's got a little plate light in there. It's got a plate light as well as a camera. Let's see if I can get a better angle. There we go, that's a better angle. So that's it. Okay, so all the wires have been run. The reverse camera has been installed. The wires have been run. The dash controls have been hooked up, and I fed all the wires up already through. So the next step is to actually put the radio in. So I'm going to be putting it right in, and I'm going to be plugging in all of the cables to it. So we got our microphone mic. So there's a mic one here. There's actually a remote here, which is going to be this one, which I bought a module for. Then we have our regular harness, a harness for subwoofers and the audio lines. This is our regular harness with the power and the speaker outputs. And last but not least, we have a Type-C connector for if I wanted to hook up my phone directly to the radio with the Type-C connector. I'm going to put a little bit of tape on this one. This one's a lot of slack on this one. So, okay, we're all plugged in. Just tuck my wires, make sure that nothing is getting in the way as I put that in. Okay. Okay, and let's see. Let me take this trimming off because it's not gonna fit. I have to trim it down a little bit. Okay. Let me turn it on really quick for the first time, the initial, to see if it actually turns on. I don't want to screw it in unless the radio is functional. Otherwise, I'll have to unscrew it. So let's put it on for the first time and see what we got. Oh, it turns on. That's a good sign. Okay, and looks like we're on. Let's just do a little Bluetooth really quick. So I want to make sure the speakers work. And then we can do a little bit of testing. And we are paired. Oh, I guess we're good there. All right, so that looks like it works. All right, we are officially back in business. Radio is all hooked up, and excited to even put the cubby back in for where the old radio is. And one cool function that I really like about this radio and the S2000 is that it's actually got a controls on the dash, and I'll show you all what that looks like in a second. All right, so now that the radio is booted up, when I hit volume up on the dash control, it turns the radio up. When I turn it down, it goes down, obviously. I also have a button where I can press, it's called audio control, but when I push it, it actually
We'll skip the track forward.
And then if I push and hold it and hit the volume down button, I can go back on the tracks. It's also got a mute button that I can press and mute the audio. So I don't need to necessarily lean over and press a button. I can just do it on the dash control. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching today. Just finished up that radio, rear view camera, and steering wheel control module. And like and subscribe. I got more things coming. Just ordered an exhaust, carbon fiber hood, and carbon fiber trunk lid. So stay tuned, and I'll be installing those. And thank you all for watching. See ya.